everybody, this is Chloe Hudson with World Peace Projects. Thank you so much for joining me. So today I'd like to talk about why would you choose this lesson? Or another title I thought about is you did not always choose to suffer. Now, what do I mean by this? Well, this has come up a couple times in the last couple months in sessions, and I think it's really important to address a massive fallacy that I find to be very dangerous throughout the New Age spiritual metaphysical community. Now, I've been on both ends of this. I absolutely used to have this belief system where I bought into this, and it costed me a lot of unnecessary grief, confusion, and it led me down wrong paths often. Now, what I'm speaking about is the general belief in the New Age movement that these lessons, these soul contracts, whatever they may be showing up in your life, that either you're gathering and reading through the Akashic records. Now, I've already talked about what I think about the Akashic records. Refer to this video if you haven't seen it. And or something that your spirit guides or angels are coming in to tell you is for a higher good or your higher path, what have you. Or you're looking at lessons, karmic agreements, soul contracts, what have you, with people or situations in your life that you have seen have been playing out for alternate timelines, or you put this into play to learn some kind of lesson. Now, this runs the gamut in regard to topics and situations and different relationships with people. Though the major theme here is that there's some kind of experience, interaction, relationship, or situation that you've been dealing with, that you're in, that is extremely tumultuous and difficult. It's costing you great suffering and grief. Though through the guidance, in whatever way you access that guidance, you're being told or led to believe that this situation, this relationship, this soul contract, what have you, is for your higher good, your ultimate benefit when it comes to the expansiveness of your soul. Now, I have a really big beef with this because, first of all, if we look at a basic scenario of if it sounds like a horse, if it acts like a horse, it's probably not a zebra, right? So if we have a situation that feels horrible, if you have a relationship that seems extremely unhealthy, if you're unhappy, then the most likely thing here is that this is not good for you. It's not that you are required to go through massive suffering and strain and hardship and scarcity and abuse, whatever it is, in order to gain some elusive soul lesson that you won't even be able to enjoy in this timeline, right? That's nonsensical. It's illogical. And it is a fundamental basis of a lot of the belief systems and structures put into place in different sectors of New Age and spiritual movements. Right? Now, if you're interested in learning how to do this type of work, but you're on a budget and you want to connect with a group, I am starting a new Soul Fracture Fixer Mixer. This is going to be every first and third Saturday. It's $24. It's going to be 2 hours. It'll start at 9 a.m. and run to 11 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. This starts August 7th. Also, every second and fourth Saturday, starting at 9 a.m., running to 11 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, I'm going to be doing a Q&A with a bonus manifestation think tank. This is also $24. So if you want to join a fantastic group of people that are like-minded and open to this type of consciousness communication, and you also want to do it in a way that doesn't hurt your pocketbook, please go to worldpeaceprojects.global and sign up for one of these upcoming classes. Twice a month they'll be offered, and I would love to see you there. And so something that this does, when somebody takes on the belief system that something that they're experiencing is completely counter to their joy or happiness, but some other force, whether it be internal dialogue or spirit guides, or they're reading the Akash, or they're clairvoyantly viewing soul contracts or lessons through a specific scope of how they've been taught, or they think they're supposed to access these etheric realms. And the messages they're receiving in whatever form seems conflicting to what feels good in their now moment. This is very dangerous, and I challenge this view. This is not always the case of what I'm saying, but discernment is key here, because a primary technique utilized in this type of belief system is gaslighting and cognitive dissonance. This is a very specific design that is meant to lead you to a crossroads where what you know feels good and what seems logical to you for your present current life, truly the one that matters, the only PowerPoint you have in now moment, right here and now, is completely contradictory to what you're being told, or the information you're receiving, or your belief systems, because of some elusive way out there, non-accessible in this moment, grander lesson that you're supposed to gain throughout the expansiveness and omnipotence of your soul and or spirit. This gaslighting, these two contradictory ideas that lead your mind to a place of shutdown and submission, which then opens a pathway to believing the fallacy in a way that is almost without question. Now you'll just follow it because your mind couldn't handle these two conflicting issues, right? Or you have to check out in some way through your soul or spirit, because the cognitive dissonance, the counter belief systems don't sit well with you. And so in order to accept this path, you have to somehow detach from your grounded existence of who you are in present moment. This is a very common technique used through manipulation. We've seen it through the covert ID program that's been going on for the last year and a half or plus now. We've seen it through all sorts of psychological situations that maybe you've studied or experienced. It's just that this technique, this manipulation tactic, is being taken into a more spiritual guise. And so I challenge this because I personally have been in lots of situations where my quote unquote guidance said, oh no, this is for your higher good, or just trust what's happening, or this is your karma, you've been playing this out life after life, where I viewed timelines where it's repetition, repetition, repetition. And that absolutely is what happens, right? Most of us know by this point that we loop patterns all the time, but it doesn't mean that it's to your higher benefit. It could be to someone's higher benefit, right? And so if you're receiving guidance, even hearing telepathically or telephony in your mind, of these guides or quote unquote angels are telling you to move through a path or do something or stay with someone or make choices that just don't sit well with you. They don't feel good. You have to give up something. There's your happiness, your abundance, your joy, whatever it is at stake. And unless you're going to be a devout devotee of some form to this higher guidance, you know, you have to question what you enjoy or give it all up for suffering because you are under a belief that this is what's best for your spirit or soul. But the reality is that we do have lots of lessons. We all know that humans experience suffering. We go through challenges. We learn, we make mistakes. We loop patterns all the time. And maybe we have subconscious agreements with other people and situations, but that doesn't mean by any means that those agreements are healthy for you, that they're beneficial, that they're up to date, that you need them, or that you even wanted that when you initially made that agreement. So I hope that you can start to look at the simplicity. Let it be more simple. What feels good to you? What feels safe to you? What feels right for you? And in this now moment, right here, right now, if you're experiencing these challenges that are rocking your world and have been doing this for years or decades or whatever it is this something that you still want to deal with? Is this something that's still fruitful for you? Is this even necessary? Because there's more than one way to skin a goat, right? Now I'm a vegan, so pardon that reference, but you know what I mean. Now, an example of this that I saw the other day was I had a session with a first-time client who didn't know what to expect, nor did I know what he wanted to work on. But as we get into the session, it becomes very obvious to me that two of his previous family members who have crossed over, one more recently within the last couple of years, one even 20 years ago, they never fully crossed. They were in that limbo interim state, what I would like to call a discarnate soul. And I found this really interesting that two separate family members from two different lineage lines were hanging around. They're in his field and they need assistance. And so I'm assisting them to finally make their full crossover, to make their peace, to close out the information they needed, whatever it is that they're holding on to that they didn't want to move forward into their next experience in what we call the afterlife. And when they went to cross, it was a very visceral feeling for me because, you know, my clear empathy will feel the situations, and it was really, it's like effervescent. It was overwhelming. It was moving in the most beautiful way. But I told them as they're crossing, I said, please go past the light. Don't stop at go. If you come to a place, whatever your belief systems of pearly white gates or higher beings that are here now to tell you everything's okay, you tell your spirit inside that you're going straight to spirit. You don't stop until you get to spirit. And I didn't want to explain any further because I didn't want to put concern in this new client's thoughts, nor did I want to scare the souls that were crossing. Though the reason I did that is because where we end up often, from my experience, when we cross, which gets us looped into these soul contracts and loop patterns that just go on through suffering and grief and baggage of karma and what have you for eternities, for timelines. We've all been there. We might not be aware of it. Is what I like to call the plane of bliss, what most people call heaven, but it's not the real heaven, okay? It's a reincarnation recycle station that over time we've ended up plenty because we're still looped into the matrix. And that's when we get this grand life review and we go over all the situations and the scenarios, and these loving beings come to celebrate our return here and show us what's happened with these different people and situations and what we learned and what we still need to develop on. And now here gently, let me coax you into your next karmic load so you can reincarnate with more baggage, more suffering under the guise of it's going to help your spirit and your soul expand, right? Well, what a load of crap. This just loops you into a whole nother timeline where you're doing the dirty work for these beings or energies or entities, what have you, that don't want to get their hands dirty. They don't want the karmic debt. So they kind of third party it off. They subcontract it, if you will. And so you end up with having to deal with all the junk and gunk and no payback. You don't get a break. You don't get to live a fantastic life where you're experiencing joy in your minute amount of time, maybe 100 years if you're lucky in this timeline. No, you're repeating. You're doing the dirty work. You're slugging it out, That's not fair and it's not true. Now, there's plenty of things that we all need to learn, and it's not that we're always going to live these lives where it's easy breezy and that's just the way it goes. We all have our challenges, we all have our trauma, we all have our grief. So there's absolutely no reason to add on to what is already going to be in the regard of normal experiences that are difficult, because to be human, it ain't a cakewalk, right? And we want to be able to enjoy ourselves and feel right with ourselves and be at peace with our experiences and not feel succumbed to or trapped by some elusive, intangible agreements or karmic debt or experiences that you've been led to believe your soul wants to learn, but it doesn't feel good right now. And you already see sometimes the very simple, obvious decisions where you could change your path completely, feel a whole lot better, and abandon that belief system, that timeline, that journey, what have you. So if you're having these experiences, or you have in the past, I challenge you to look at what is the guidance structure, first of all, that you're receiving these beliefs or this information from. How come you're being presented, or your internal dialogue is presenting you with continual situations? Maybe it's just one, but it's a really big life experience that you've been dealing with for quite a while that just doesn't feel good. It's causing a ton of suffering, but you're sticking with it because you think that there's some kind of higher outcome. There's some kind of elusive graduation or ascension or what have you that is outside of this realm that you're not even going to be able to access in this timeline. But because you're a more expanded being, you move towards it anyway. And again, I ask you to utilize discernment here, because I am not so naive to believe that this matrix system is meant to be a wonderful supreme experience. And I do know that we have our ultimate higher lessons, but I am just so fed up with the trickery that many of us are still falling for, that I fell for years, that's causing that much more undue trauma and suffering. And it's creating more of a split in your own self to be able to trust self and know the simplicity of how it feels. Is this okay or is it not? Do you enjoy it or do you not? If you don't enjoy it, is it necessary or is it not? Is this some type of idea that you're connected with and that wholeheartedly? Or are you simply blindly believing because it's what you've been taught, or it's how you've learned, or it's what you're hearing, right? Or even what you're seeing if you're viewing timelines. Question all of these things. The matrix system that we're experiencing is a holographic reality. Things can be changed. There's constant movies and imagery and sounds and sensations and emotions and experiences that obviously aren't our true reality. So it's very easy to go down a virtual reality path that isn't your true, authentic, transparent experience, or it doesn't have to be that way if you know how to be present in your own being. So you can live for the now moment while also being completely connected to your spirit, your soul aspects, and true guidance. Actually, that's the only way you can do it. You need to be here now, because that 0 point, that present moment, that surrender, whatever you want to call it, it's all the same thing. It's the only frequency access point where you can expand into while still being fully cognizant in this avatar body and access as vast as you're able to, with different timelines, different aspects, your expanded self. And you're meant to do this while being fully present in this vessel, in your human who is here now. That's the PowerPoint. Anything outside of that is not offering you your full safe PowerPoint. Because when we have, left this vessel, it is open for exposure and it's vulnerable for access, whether that be that we're astral traveling and we're in a meditation zone, or we have just fractured and we're in shock, we're spirit out of body, whatever you want to call it. And we all do it. That's just the way it goes, right? But be cognizant of this. If you're conflicted here now, that's your PowerPoint. That's what you need to deal with. And these experiences are what ripple out to clear and heal the other timelines. It's more important for you to deal with what is here now in order to build out than to be out and try to build in, right? Because if you're pushing stuff out, you're going to be able to clean the house. But if you're pulling stuff in without the proper filters, you're going to get all sorts of debris and gook and junk caught up in that. Now, if you're interested in learning how to do this type of work, but you're on a budget and you want to connect with a group, I am starting a new soul fracture fixer mixer. This is going to be every first and third Saturday. It's $24. It's going to be 2 hours. It'll start at 9 a.m. and run to 11 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. This starts August 7th. Also, every second and fourth Saturday, starting at 9 a.m., running to 11 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, I'm going to be doing a Q&A with a bonus manifestation think tank. This is also $24. So if you want to join a fantastic group of people that are like-minded and open to this type of consciousness communication, and you also want to do it in a way that doesn't hurt your pocketbook, please go to worldpeaceprojects.global and sign up for one of these upcoming classes. Twice a month they'll be offered, and I would love to see you there. I hope you guys are doing great. Please give me a like, leave a comment if you have an experience like this, and I'll hope to see you next week. Bye.